Well, hello, fellow traveler. I'm glad you found your way here. Storms brewing outside. I thought you might have trouble navigating your way to my place, but you seem to find an alternate route, perhaps. Where there's a will, there's a way. I know it is a little intense out there right now. There's a lot that's coming to a head in the world, and I have to say, when I was considering dropping into the energy today, it wasn't actually the first thing on my to-do list. Sometimes I just want to punch out when it's like this, and it's not always desirable to tap further in when you already pick up so much, And it kind of amazes me how people can tap into energy focusing on day-to-day drama when there's something real heavy going on in the world. I mean, we're all in a state of transformation right now. We're in a state of figuring it out as we go, not having the answers, fumbling through the unknown. And yet times are activating, and it's also time to rise. And I was thinking, what do I want to read on tonight? I don't really want to do a portal report right now, because I know if I do a portal report, I'm just going to tap into all the macrocosmic energy. And I really don't want to tap into that so much as I want to get more down to the heart of the matter. And it made me think of a character that came up recently for us, Nobody. And I thought, let's read about Nobody, because we've sure been learning a lot about the somebodies. And it seems like the somebodies are the ones who are mucking up this world, man. It's all the people that think they're somebody who holds power, somebody who holds status, somebody who holds all the spoils and the riches of war. And I thought, let's just drop in with Nobody for a while. And let's learn a little bit from those who aren't heard, aren't seen, aren't recognized. And I can really relate to this energy pretty strongly, because often I feel like this. I feel like I'm really disconnected from the rest of the world and the way they see things. I feel like I'm an odd man out. And I know many other people who feel this way too, ironically. There's more of us who often feel like nobody than we feel like somebody. And then you think about, what does it really mean to be somebody? And it sort of puts a different frame around things because of how we define somebody in this world. And maybe it's better to be nobody, you know what I mean? It might be better to be nobody, not able to be defined or put into a particular category, not falling in line with the usual algorithmic appetite, something that does break the mold and is undefinable. And so because it's not known what it is, it can't really be defined. And maybe that is the way we get out of the hangman position, is to open up to exploration of who we are coming to be. And it looks like we got quite some auspicious signs coming out in relation to this. I'll get into these in a minute. They all came out in the crossing position. This one's face down though. This is something that we do not see. Oh, Madame Rufflebonnet. Interesting. Madame Rufflebonnet is what crosses Nobody. Madame Rufflebonnet is a somebody. Thinks they know everything, thinks they know the way, thinks they have all the answers, thinks they have it all on lock, all figured out, that their opinion, their worldview carries more weight than anyone else's. And this is really what runs into opposition of Nobody here, because see, what I see is that Nobody has figured out a way to get out of somebody's trap, not hanging out like the hangman, not acting like a martyr here, embracing chaos as the creative force it is. Maybe there is something something of a new beginning, we can pull out of the void of what is quickly becoming an ending of the way we've known things. And this is the sacred clown at the wheel. And this is when we can maybe pull something off, something rather transformational here, as that snake is hinting at the snake associated with Scorpio, the house of transformation, the 8th house. And we know Plutonian territory pretty well by now. And we have to look at what's going on in the world today and recognize, as much as we feel like it's reaching a fever pitch, we're just at the start of this. So, you know, it can be a case of the blind leading the blind. But if we're willing to sort of say, okay, I can't really be defined right now. What I'm feeling, I'm not sure what it is. I don't have a referential point for it. And, you know, who am I? Who am I to think, you know, I have all the answers, or I know the way through, or that what I feel is more important than what anybody else feels when we got such heavy stuff going on in the world, like real stuff, man. Real stuff that in order for us to come together and resolve things, we can't be feeling like we have some sense of importance above anybody else. This is where we got to kind of level out the somebodies and get back to the ground base of nobody, knowing nothing. And from there, we can kind of find our way through together, muddle it through together. And I see this is where we really do open up to our instincts. We open up to that part of us that can find a way through kind of unfamiliar and at times it appears becoming more hostile territory. And the only way we can navigate that when we don't really know the way through because we've never been here before is to get deeply in touch with our instincts and to be guided by that light of the moon that connects us with something deep in our soul that knows somewhere, somehow, there is light to be found in what appears so dark right now. And see, when we attune on that level, well, that's when finally something is seen. That's when we finally align with the dawn. And then we can get something coming into our souls that makes us feel like we're being nurtured again, nurtured with some kind of sense of purpose. And I think that's something that can really come forward right now too, right? Because there's so many people in the world who feel like they're not heard, they're not seen, their opinion doesn't matter, their vote doesn't matter. Their lives don't matter. And that's what the somebodies would have the nobodies believe. When actually the nobodies hold quite a lot of power if they recognize that there's more of them than there are of the somebodies. So there's something that's really shifting here. And it's shifting in a way that's very powerful and transformational, and it is the seed of the new beginning. It is the source of what will bring the dawn. It is that thing that ultimately will be the miraculous chalice that just fills all of us, nurtures all of us, and shows us the way through, shows us a loftier view of what can be possible when we tell the Madame Rufflebonnets of the world to take a seat. And we start figuring stuff out for ourselves, just going by our instincts, feeling our way through. And this requires we lose control a bit. Requires we lose control. Only then are we going to figure out how to go with this new kind of flow. The path out of the wilderness is here, though, but only after we eradicate the Frodas. And see? This is the somebody right now. The Frodas is the somebody. Would have you all believe that they know what's best for the world, but we see what they're doing to the world here. All in favor of greed. all in favor of greed and advance. And we're starting to realize, you know what? I may be nobody when it comes to the Frodis, but there's more of me than there are of the Frodis. And maybe I don't want to suffer this plot. Maybe I can rise to a particular challenge here. Maybe there is something I can do. And something's better than nothing in this case, but there is a truth that's coming to the forefront right now for all of us, recognizing what's not worth sacrificing for anymore, and getting attuned with what is. What is. All right, so let's get some more details about this. What does nobody want us to know? Let's give nobody a voice here. Let's learn more about what nobody has to say, because it seems like nobody can point the way to the dawn. Nobody is willing to cut themselves down from that place of the hangman and actually put something in motion, is willing to focus only on the dawn and how the dawn can come on through. You know, sometimes though that does require sacrifice. It can require sacrifice of a previous view. It can even require sacrifice of a worldview. Oh yes, and it does mean facing off with big sexy Satan and everything he promises will make you somebody. The acquisition of all those worldly trappings and the followers and the recognition and the applause and feeling like you've made your way into certain circles. But what does the house mean and the fancy car and all the people you can hobnob with who are of the higher status if it can all just be wiped out because of some greed? Some greed to be able to say, I'm somebody. And so I get to dictate. I get to dictate how you live, if you live. See, there's something we need to learn from the archives of the past to overcome the challenges we face in the world today and the challenges we're facing in our own life. It's really about getting recalibrated with where true power is meant to be found. And it's not found in what comes off flashy and rather presumptuous, you know. It's actually more dressed down. And Rhubarb Tony here is pointing to the rhubarb as a clue that the power is really found in coming into the heart space, softening a bit. Rhubarb aligns us with the energy of Venus, and we know that Venus moved into Aries, and when Venus is in Aries, it's a warring energy that can come through, but we can temper that with a little bit of love, and it does involve us looking back into the archives of the deep, deep past. Because what's rolling out now is something that's been going on since the dawn of time. And we always seem to get it wrong, but maybe this time we can get it right. And it doesn't just play out on the world stage, although that is really in our face right now. But it also involves us taking those steps in our life. I mean, what are you fighting for? What is important to you? What are you willing to sacrifice for? Do you know where your heart is calibrated? Have you dropped into your heart? Has it been a while? There's something that needs to be seen to open up this path, because clearly there's a need to relinquish control. There's also a need to disconnect from this kind of Madame Rufflebonnet energy, you know? Being up in everybody's business, telling everybody what they need to do, how they need to do it, what's right, what's wrong, you know? And it's interesting because as soon as you can move out of this space of having to be the one that knows it all, there's actually more of an opportunity for all of us to finally feel like we have a way to work through the challenges we face with each other. Because anybody who thinks they know the way through what we're currently facing doesn't have a clue. And if anything is evident, what's really missing at this time, if you look at everything going on in the world, is to really recognize that it's not all about this stuff that has us breaking our back, working ourselves into the ground, and not even being able to afford what's been marketed to us as, in the States, the American dream. Boy, that's really falling flat, you know. And it's stuff that, you know, the world has been dealing with for a long time now. And it's starting to really confront us directly here in the States. We're seeing the fall of capitalism, you know, and the ideals that it sells to us, what it markets to us. We recognize the way that we've placed our value in the wrong things. This has really held us back. And we can't just hang out here anymore. We do have to make a decision. We do have to make a choice. We either sign on the dotted line for what big sexy Satan tells us is the way through, that will give us some kind of elevation, that will give us a rise in power, or we recognize that our true power is found in seeing that we're not like them. We're not like them. We're not like the somebodies in the world. And maybe that's a real good thing. Maybe that's a real good thing. Because the creative force is being threatened with destruction. The shadow is staring us in the face. And things that we haven't wanted to look at are coming up close and personal. And we have to reinvent the way we move forward here. We have to reinvent the way we see ourselves too. And maybe what needs to happen is a turning of the tables where the nobodies recognize that they're actually somebody who can make a difference. I kind of feel that's how it's coming through. But we're going to get some more details about this. Let me do a cut of the deck. You see, this cup is waiting to be filled. And the elephant's in the room. We can't sweep anything under the rug anymore. It's here. It's here. It's in our face. And there's the young part of us that feels like we need somebody else to look up to give us the answers, to help us figure it out. But what we don't recognize is that person is us. And for those of you that have children, you know, you're looking at all the uncertainty in the world and you're trying to figure out how you're going to provide a future for your children if all is lost here. And there's only one way through, and that is taking off the disguise and getting down to the heart of who you truly are, what matters to you, what is worth fighting for. What is worth fighting for? And what is worth your sacrifice if it means there can be a new beginning that nurtures the new growth, that nurtures the new way. And when I'm talking of this, of course, there's the macrocosmic reflection of that, but I'm talking about you and where you are right now. If you're like most people out there, you have some big questions that are starting to rest in your consciousness, things you're considering. The future isn't promised the way it was when we were younger. And it's something we have to look at. We can't deny that. So what time do you got? With everything being so uncertain right now, the time you got is right here, right now. And how can you make it count? How can it be something that really fills your life with more value? And how can you recognize that that is the turning point? That is the turning point. There is something we're seeing into here. We're seeing into the mystery, and it's through seeing that something is coming to an end. We can't ignore this. Who cares? Who cares about the petty dramas you've been dealing with in your day-to-day life? Who cares? Who cares what so-and-so is doing? Do you recognize you're going to need so-and-so? When it comes down to it, we're all going to need each other. When it comes down to it in the end. You don't think so? You may be surprised. So much of the petty stuff that people are tapped into, concerned about, worried about, fixated on, it's nothing. And you're going to see it's nothing when that rug does get pulled out from under all of us. Things aren't going back to the way they were. Things aren't going back to normal. They never will. And not being willing to look at that is part of the problem, because we have to transform. Pluto in Aquarius is demanding that we transform. Neptune, Saturn in Aries is demanding that we pull something out of nothing. That somehow we become somebody when we feel like we're nobody. That we have the courage to look at something that maybe we haven't wanted to look at for a long time. And that through having the courage to stare that in the face, and maybe that's us. Maybe that's looking in the mirror, looking deeply into our own eyes and asking ourselves, how am I using my life? I got this moment. I got nothing else but this moment. So how am I going to stop feeling like I'm nobody and there's nothing I can do when this is all I got? And so I better show up and be somebody in this moment and make something out of the time I have. Something worthwhile. There's something that needs to shift here. Shift in focus and in action. I mean, I feel it really strongly. We're all being called to some kind of action in our life. It really feels that it's time to let the mask fall away. It's time to stop behaving like a martyr. It's time to stop feeling like somebody else has control. And that you're just going to kind of go along with the program, you know? There's really a need to become somebody. Recognize you are somebody. You're not just nobody. And there's more of us who feel like we're not heard, we're not seen, we're not understood, than there are who are somebody and have all the power to pull the strings. And that's the thing. Once you recognize that you're not so different from everybody else, it can be a very humbling experience, you know? And sometimes that's what we need. We need a moment of coming back down to earth, an equalizing moment. And I feel like that's where we're at right now. You know, it's kind of silly. It's kind of silly, all this social posturing and all the status updates about how wonderful life is, when you know everybody is grappling with serious concerns right now. Like, yeah, what is my world going to look like moving forward? Most people are in this position, like they don't know what to do next. Everything's hanging in the balance right now. But you do got this moment. And so that's what's important, that you recognize you are somebody who holds your whole world in your hands in this moment. And it's up to you what you make of it, how you focus your energy, your time, your attention, your intention, whether you choose to focus on meaningless garbage, fights you have with people, disagreements, concerns over what this person is doing, that person is doing, all of that. It's robbing you of your time. It's robbing you of your energy. What can you do to make this moment that you have, the only moment that's guaranteed to you, something worthwhile, something of value. It's up to you. Somebody isn't coming to save you. Somebody is trying to make sure that you remain a nobody. And that somebody is the Frodis. And that's what needs to be cleansed from the gross cut. See, I feel like the provider, which is us, all the nobodies in the world need to cleanse the Frodis from the cut. So it can be the miraculous chalice. And not just a repeat of the same old promises and ways forward we've been presented in the past that just keep us on this perpetual karmic loop. It's the same old story that's been going on since Atlantis. The acquisition of power is not all it's cracked up to be when that power is not shared. That power is not shared. I mean, it goes against the very fabric of reality. Reality, it's all just one energy. So, you know, it's a balance. It's a balance of shadow and light. And any time one or the other grows to a greater extent, it can throw off that balance. And people may say, oh, well, if it was all light, it would be perfect. It would be totally balanced. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't actually, because you need the darkness for the light to be born. You know, that is nature. And there will always be this sort of polarity when we're looking at 3D reality. But there's so much excess of the dark force in creation today that it is actually ceasing the creative power of the light. In our universe, at least, we're all out of light. We're operating on light that, you know, died off a long time ago. We're living in an echo of light. So until we start generating it ourselves, it's going to be problematic. And if you got a bunch of people feeling like, well, I'm nobody, there's nothing I can do, I just got to obey the orders of the Frodis, and falling into a state of apathy, being spellbinded by the algorithm and thinking that, you know, being able to have a good image online is the answer to all of life, that will be the thing that makes you somebody because you got enough likes, you got enough subscribes, you got enough people in your corner stroking the ego, you know. It's actually just falling right in line with the plan, you know. That's what it's about. That's what the interwebs have become. It's become a way for keeping us very complacent, very complicit with the plan, actually, numbed out, you know, caught up in petty dramas, caught up in superficialities. And so we continue to think we don't really have the power to do a damn thing. And because we think we don't have the power to do a damn thing, we just eat up everything the Frodis serves us with a spoon and wonder why. Why does it feel so meaningless, you know? This is about recovering the sense of meaning. And I'm not talking about you going out and changing the world overnight, but you got to change your world. You got to start somewhere. You got to start with something that shifts your own perspective and how you feel and how you show up in life and how you engage. And so there's something here we need to do. We need to recover some sense of meaning, something that connects us with something. See, because we're spilling out the opportunity. The things that we currently are fixated on as a society, they don't lead to celebration. There's nothing to toast. There's no healing there. But there is if we take the power in our own hands and we transform ourselves. If we start there, then we'll find we got all aces on the table. It does require action though. And so this is what you're being charged to do here. How can you go from being nobody to being somebody? Somebody not according to anybody else, but within your own heart, in your own eyes. When you look at yourself in the mirror, how can you go from being nobody to being somebody, to actually being an active participant in your life and the creation of it? Yes, that is the way through. To recognize you do have power. You do have power in relation to how you show up in the world, what you do, and how you take action to transform your own view. And maybe it does start in your mind. Maybe that's where the freedom first takes root. But something's needed here. And something's needed that requires you to listen to your instincts and maybe recalibrate, adjust a bit. Maybe explore some different perspectives. Have some conversations you never thought you would have. Explore some possibilities you never thought were on offer. You're weighed down right now. A lot of you are carrying more than you want to be carrying. A lot of you feel obligated in ways you don't want to feel obligated to. And so there's something here that does need to be put down because it's become burdensome. And you see, you put it down, you let it go, and that's what opens the road. You do find the way through. You do get a new view. What you dream up here, you put into motion. See, it requires your action. There's that staff, the staff that is the wand that the magician raised to take what was seen as a possibility and make it a reality. How? Through changing, transforming, doing something differently. So where are you feeling weighed down? Where are you feeling like you're giving energy to something that's just depleting you, making you feel oppressed, making you feel like you're nobody in your own life, making you feel like you're not seen, you're not heard? It's time to stop throwing up your hands in exasperation like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. Haven't you seen? I got the world stacked against me. I got the Frotus breathing down my neck. Well, you and everybody else. But I see that that's not true, because as soon as you let go of those 10 of Wands, all of a sudden you have paths opening up for you. So I feel like it's time to sort of thumb your nose at the Madame Rufflebonnets of the world with all their shoulds and all their regulations and all their specifications for what you need to do and how it needs to look and what's right for you, even though they haven't walked a mile in your shoes. And it's time to drop some of those shoulds and some of those things that you feel like, I don't want to be doing this. This isn't pouring back into me. And in order to give up some of those things, you may have to risk being a nobody because you've convinced yourself that doing these things make you somebody in somebody's eyes. And it's just not the way it is. It's about remembering what really matters. It's getting back to the roots of things. It's getting in touch with your heart. It's about recognizing that to be truly seated in your power, it's not dependent on a certain outside presentation, appearance. It's not about what you have, it's about what you hold and living from that. That's what opens your road. That's what aligns you with the light that can be found in the dark. And then many paths will start to open up for you. So this is a good place to start, you know. Over the next 72 hours, have a look at this. Where am I holding on to things, doing things for the sake of being somebody, but it really makes me feel like a nobody because I don't feel connected to it at all. It doesn't fill me up. It doesn't give me a sense of meaning. It doesn't give me a sense of purpose. It keeps me in a state of being burdened, overwhelmed, in the dark, feeling like I have no choice but to just sort of fall in line and just go with the flow of what's been established for me by the Frodis, because do I even have any options? It may seem like a very small thing, but when you do start doing that sort of systems check in your own life, really looking at what's causing you to feel like things are just breaking down in your life, or they're not helping to propel you forward, or they're making it difficult for you to even get out of bed and face the day because it's just more of the same of what you don't want to do, but you feel like you're obligated to. And some of those things you may say, yeah, but Broad, you know, I have to go to work. I got to go to work. I got to earn a living. I mean, I have to put food on the table. And absolutely, these things are true. When you live in this 3D reality, there's things that have to be done. But that doesn't mean that there is not other avenues where transformation can take root, and where there's not ways that you can start to shift the energy in a new direction. You know, sometimes it starts very simply. People always wonder, how do I change? How do I change my life? And they try to become somebody overnight. They try to follow some formula because they saw it online, you know. Some influencer said you can transform your life in 90 days. Let me show you how. And it's really not about that. It's about, first of all, asking yourself, what is the thing you'd like to change most right now? One thing. And what is one step you can take? One step. Not informed by somebody else, but by being honest with yourself about how you feel really burdened in this one area, how you're perpetually engaged in some kind of perspective, some kind of daily task, or something you have to tick off your to-do list that is just making you feel like it's squeezing the life out of you. How can you infuse more life into that space? Where can you let go something that is burdening you and do it in a new way? And maybe seeing what can be done requires you to get out of the position of a martyr. And that takes some degree of accountability. You know, when has it become comfortable to be the martyr, to be the nobody that doesn't have control? So woe is me. This is just what I have to do. And it's not true. You start to make simple changes and say, okay, I see this now. Well, this means like things need to change. I might need to change my schedule, or I might need to change the way I'm spending my free time. I might need to redirect this here. I may need to let this go because I know it makes Madame Rufflebonnet happy, but it's doing nothing for me except siphoning my time, my energy, my focus in ways that could be redirected over here. And just a simple little teeny shift in trajectory, people don't realize how much that can fuel your fire, how much that can start to get the heart fire going. The way it can make you feel like you're not powerless, that you do have the ability to make a difference here. No matter how small it may seem. I mean, even to get a fire going, all it takes is just that initial spark, right? So the next 72 hours, this is about finding your spark. Don't look at transforming your whole life overnight. Don't look at making it some big fanfare. Just look for one little spark. What is one little spark that you can start to nurture right now? Because that one little spark can actually bring you sustenance for the road ahead. What is consuming all of your fire and leading you to a place of feeling burned out, feeling like you just gotta go along with the status quo because there's nothing else to do but continue to carry this load. It's not true. I'm curious. I don't know why, but I'm curious. What is behind this Ten of Wands that can't be seen? Wow. Judgment. Oh, well, see, that's the start of you getting out of your rut. You're not done for yet. There's something to rise for here. You got to figure that out. That's kind of an interesting place to begin. What is something that could inspire you to get up? We're just talking about a spark. What is something that could inspire you to get up even 15 minutes earlier than you normally do? I think a lot of people, they like to milk every opportunity they have, to stay in bed, just a little bit longer before that alarm goes off and I got to go back to the daily grind of carrying all this shit, right? But what if you got up just 15 minutes earlier and you use that 15 minutes just as a starting point, just a suggestion? You don't have to go along with this, okay? But I'm just throwing out a potential starting point of exploration. What if over the next 17 hours? Okay, the next 17 hours, all right. What if over the next 17 hours, well, that would probably put you into alignment with the star. What is 17 hours from now? The time I'm recording this, it's roughly 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'd be noon. Okay. So noon, interesting. Noon. I don't know what there is about that. There's been a lot coming in around time ever since I brought in that portal report. Maybe set your alarm for noon tomorrow, or from whenever you receive this message. There might be something that comes through there that gives you a clue. And maybe whatever comes through there that gives you some kind of inspiration about how you could start directing your energy to nurture a little spark. So maybe there's something that comes through that's a hint. It's a hint about your spark. Just go with this. Just for the heck of it, okay? It doesn't need to make sense. There's just something kind of interesting coming through here. I mean, I think of 17, I think of the star. So the star is that is the spark. It's the spark to be found in the dark, right? And I think of noon, that's 12, that's like the hangman energy. That is the energy of the 12th house, the house of the blind spot. So yeah, I don't know. There's something about that and I'm going to run with it. It doesn't need to make sense, okay? It doesn't need to make sense. It's how it's kind of just filtering in here. Set your alarm, okay? Set your alarm for noon, Maybe it will go off when you're at work and engaged in one of these tasks, and it'll just happen to remind you at that point of something that will light your spark. In that instant, it gives you a spark that can be something that you can use as a focal point to grow into something more. And maybe whatever you discover there, make 15 minutes at the start of your day, getting up 15 minutes earlier than you usually would, to nurture that spark, right? Even if it's just meditating on it, not doing anything except creating space to just think about this one spark and meditating on it, journaling on it a little bit, pondering it as you have your morning coffee. When that reminder alarm goes off, there's something that will come through there that's a little spark that helps you get out of your rut. And that came in at 44:55 on the clock. So yeah, it gives you some strength to rise above something that's been holding you back in the limitations of the past. And it can be the thing, if you just start to give it a little focus, even just 15 minutes of your time each day at the start of your day, it can kind of fill your cup, get you a little bit focused on how you can bring the dawn of that star into your life. Interesting, the way that kind of came through. Any more details that want to come through in relation to this? Yeah, because see, there's something here. There's something here that does help us release the burden of that devilish energy, that tricky energy that has us caught up. Comes to 15 here. It requires us to bring about the change of the Wheel of Fortune. See, that's aligned with the 10 of Wands there. There's something we need to drop. There's something that we're doing, you know, on a day-to-day basis that's making us feel like we don't have the power we actually do to bring transformation in our life. And with that, we got the Queen of Wands. See, everything is being aligned right now with taking some kind of action. But it needs to be an inspired action. You need a spark to light this fire, to light the fire in you. So let's just, let's play with this. I'll participate. I'm game, why not? I'm going to set an alarm for noon tomorrow, and I'm just going to see what comes on through at that time and see what's in my consciousness at that time. And then I'll go ahead. I'll play with this. I'll see what happens. I mean, I'm game. Why not? Why not, man? Yeah. There's some truth that will come through that will help you figure out how to get yourself in line with what you truly desire here, what will truly give your soul peace. And what will nurture the growth of true wealth in your life. See, there's something that wants to grow here, but the current pursuit is out of alignment with what truly gives you that sense of wealth in your life. It's not what big sexy Satan sold to you. It's not. It's something much deeper. And that's why we got to clear out the gross cup, because it's not the opportunity. It's not the opportunity that wants to find its way to us. You see, this is the cup that is the miraculous chalice. This is the cup that is the coming of the dawn. And it does require a loftier view. And we can only get sort of a view into this particular reality tunnel by doing something differently. And it may seem kind of silly, you know, what I'm saying. But when you start to play with life, when you engage with life in this way, you find that life will communicate back to you, and you'll be surprised what comes on through. Let me do a cut of deck here, see what we got. Look at that. That's the truth. See, there's some truth that will come through that can crown you with a much different kind of knowledge. And with that, you can finally get moving here. See, this sets something in motion. And I like it. I like it because the sword merges with the wand. And then you got the spear of blue. That is like he of the fiery sword energy. It's the activation of the will, the determination. So I like this energy because there's indication that it then leads to some kind of healing, some kind of light building, something that sustains more than just us. It actually brings a sustenance of the life force energy, of the light force energy. And that builds. That builds. But you have to be the first. You know what I mean? Before it can build, before it can be shared with others, like you have to build the light force in your own life. You have to call the dawn in for yourself. Experiment with it just for 72 hours. You know, set your alarm, see what spark comes through at noon, and then commit over the next 72 hours to just rise 15 minutes earlier and just focus on that spark that came through in whatever way you feel called to, you know, even if it's just, you know, sitting and considering it as you have your morning coffee or whatever. There's something there that gives you decisiveness about a certain action that needs to be taken. Let me get some elemental qualities coming through here. Yeah, look at this. The fire is coming through here. So fire is all about illumination, but it's also what gives us drive. It's what gives us a sense of purpose. It engages our will. And it's also the great transformer. It can light up a road for us where we didn't see one. And I feel like this is what's going on here. It's like, I think that maybe we need to find our way through unusual means, not in the traditional ways that we see things coming through for us. And this is one way that we can start to engage differently with our life, is by showing that we're ready for this sort of interactive quality with the life force itself. You know, when you sort of create a little play space like this, it's pretty surprising what comes through. You look at things differently too, where you would normally say, oh, that's just nothing, or it would just be a passing thought. If you set an alarm to highlight your attention to a particular time, you know, then you're going to look at that moment much differently than you normally would. You know what I mean? Something that would normally be nothing suddenly becomes something, you know. Maybe it's somebody you're interacting with at that time, you know. Normally you don't, you know, think much of the connections. Suddenly you realize that's not nobody, that's somebody. There's something to this here. What is life trying to show me in this moment? So it's interesting. It's kind of funny how it came through. It's not the message I expected to come through, but it's what wanted to present itself, and it presented itself in a very odd sort of way. But I think that's how things are right now, you know? It's like noticing what's kind of out of place or kind of different or unusual that actually provides a little spark. And maybe it requires us to look at something from a different angle or in a different way than we normally would be prone to. And that does present a way through, or a new recognition of the role of something in our life that maybe we didn't really value before. I like this. So there is some kind of synchronicity. There's some kind of message coming in here. Something that can help us home in on where we should devote a little time, attention, focus to sort of lift our view. There's some kind of magic we can fetch out of this moment. It acts as a messenger that if we apply ourselves in the direction that's highlighted for us, will give us a loftier view. Maybe even bring more peace, love into our lives. Gives us a different view about what's possible for us too. Crossing energy over the swords. It's the birth of something new here. The birth of something new. It's all coming in with the earth energy. This is something that can bring the birth of something in your life that will be more balanced, you know, help you access the gifts from the Joker of Fire as we sit at this crossroads, not knowing quite where to go. there's a gift in this moment. Even in the most tricky territory, there's gifts to be found. In fact, that's often where we find the most treasure. But see, the treasure is here, right where you're at the center of the crossroads, and really recognizing that this is a point where you hold a lot of power, but it's how you use your time at the crossroads that matters. I mean, you can cut yourself down, but if you still just kind of operate in the same old way, you may as well still be hanging up from that tree because you're not really going anywhere. You know what I mean? There's something that needs to be done differently here to really find a way through. And it requires engaging with our life in a different sort of way. And so if everything we're facing in our life is real heavy because there's real big stuff going down on the world stage, we have to be able to bring some sense of sort of playful engagement or levity in our day-to-day sphere, not only to just keep us grounded in this reality and not popping off and losing it, but also to be able to find where the light does peek through all the kind of heavy energy rolling out here. But if we can start to kind of engage with our life in this sort of playful way where we're mocking up our reality tunnel in such a way, and you can do this for yourself, you know, create your own parameters around it. You don't have to go with noon if you don't want to, you know, set your own time, you know, whatever comes through for you. But the more we kind of enter into more playful sort of engagement with life, we do find that life plays back with us, you know? And there's a lot that can be discovered there. I do feel like there's something coming through here that's going to highlight something that maybe you've just kind of brushed off as not being important, at least not as important as the rest of this load that you're carrying, that actually just giving it 15 minutes of your time at the start of the day not only would put you in a position of feeling like you got some momentum going, it would also make you feel like you're more aligned with who you truly are, what is meaningful for you. And when you start your day like that, engaged in that, even though it's just 15 minutes, and I think this is a thing that people do often, they feel like, I got to do everything all at once because that's kind of what we're told we have to do. But if you can commit, right, to 15 minutes to start your day, you don't recognize how much of an impact that can have. Because if normally you start your day like grumbling and, you know, oh gosh, here we go again, I gotta get back to the 10 of Wands, you know, that sets the tone for your whole day. But if you take that spark that you get at noon or whenever you decide to kind of highlight that for you, and you give yourself 15 minutes at the start of your day to feed that spark in whatever way you're called to, it changes everything. You're changing up your usual MO, you're changing up your usual flow, you're adding something. It may seem small, but it's actually a big thing because it changes your mindset. The mindset you enter your day with, and mindset is everything. It changes your energy. The energy you bring is everything. I mean, come on, the 72 hours are going to pass whether you engage in it or not. So why not? Why not see what happens and what comes through? And just see how much it shifts, you know, and where it leads you. Where it leads you. It looks like it'll earth things here, earth something that brings about a new beginning. It balances something out. It puts you more in a place of calm and equanimity. And look, everything's coming through with earth, and then you'll get a message that comes through that changes everything, brings an opportunity you weren't even expecting with the Joker of Earth. Do you see? There's like a lot of playful energy coming through here. So we already had the Joker of Air, Joker of Sky came through on our last portal report. Now we got the Joker of Fire showing up, and we got the Joker of Earth coming in here, okay? So, you know, all that's missing is the Joker of Water, right? And so that's what we need to find, you know, something that does make us feel like, I want to nurture this. I want to nurture this. But once you're lit up by the truth, and once you're lit up with your fire of inspiration, then you'll have what you need to nurture the growth, which is through our action, through our care, through our tending. And you may just discover that water with just 15 minutes of time at the start of your day. Ooh, I like it. Look, the alchemical point. There's that fire sprite again, and coming in with what? The queen of water. You see? That's how you make the garden grow. Something flowers here. Remember, it came through as the Joker of Sky, that it had to be rooted in the ether first. So it looks like whatever was sort of coming in more etherically over the past 72 hours is now actually ready to get rooted in material reality. And this is how we can help it along. Something will be shown to us, but it requires us going about it in a more kind of unconventional way, more of a playful way, a spirited way, to pull this bloom out of the ether and ground it on terra firma here. But the call will come. The message will come. And there will be activation. You just got to pay attention. It'll show you what needs to be nurtured, what is ready to grow in your life, what is ready to come to bloom. And it will be the start of a beginning. This is interesting. Cut of the deck. Let's see what we got. It is an earth matter. Look at this. And it comes in with the energy signature 3, the Empress. So something grows, something's set in motion here that grows. It grows throughout the months to come. And it's interesting how the calendar is starting here at March, right where we are. And by the time you reach July, you'll recognize this little thing that you set in motion now, the way it grows into your garden. And it leads you all the way north, just when you thought you were going south. So this is an electrifying moment here with 9 of sky. Something that moves you out of that place of inertia. Inertia being the place that actually breeds the anxiety, that breeds the fear. People often don't recognize that. The way that stagnancy actually feeds anxiety, feeds fear. But once you start nurturing something, you start switching things up, you start setting something in motion, no matter how small it seems, it takes you into a whole different sphere of reality. It changes the way you feel. It changes the way you show up. It changes what's possible. And as you make the little shift, then other things environmentally start to shift around you. So this is some kind of awakening moment that's coming through here. And I mean, it's happening in real time. That's what I got. All right, I'm going to get one more round of cards here. I think I'm going to get the Gilded Tarot to see what is being alchemized here. Bottom of the deck, the Magician. Okay, the Magician twice, okay? So there is something that we can revive here. We can revive our life. We can bring ourselves back to life through engaging in this. I mean, it's a little bit like what we used to do when we were kids, right? We'd make believe anything was possible. I feel like this is how this is coming through. All right, so let me get some more clues here. But we do got all aces on the table here. I mean, we already saw a bunch of them come through, but there is something that does need to be turned around in the heart space, right? Because it does show that, you know, the way we're currently oriented here, it's not going to lead to the growth of what we desire here. There's something that needs to be purified here. And so I think this is a good starting point. So if you're going to join me in that, you're going to set your alarm for noon tomorrow, let me know. Drop me a comment. Let me know. Because I'm going to do it. I want to know, are there other people who are weird like me who play those kind of games? Who are willing to play those kind of games to find a way through? If you do, you'll be surprised what shows up. It also kind of prompts you to look at your life a little differently. I mean, you may feel like, well, okay, the alarm went off and I'm just like sitting here and nothing's different, but is it? Because that alarm is telling you to pay attention to something in that moment. So it's interesting the way it can really shift something that you normally deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you're just really locked in a certain perspective. But when that alarm goes off, you may look at it quite differently and go, well, there's a spark here, What's the spark? And the spark could be like something that is asking to be transformed, something that's asking to be changed, or it could be something that needs to be lit up, something you need to give more time, more attention, more of your care, more of your awareness. Or the spark could just come through your desire to change because you're looking at what you're looking at and you're like, I don't want to look at this anymore. Something's got to give. Okay, so just see what comes through. Okay, get some more details here. Yeah. Whatever this is, it will let you know what is worth really standing up for here. Something you're going to want to start to give those 15 minutes to, and I don't know, maybe after a while, more than 15 minutes, but that may require that you start to let go more of these wands that you don't really want to be carrying, all right? I like it. Look at this. So yeah, it will let you know what really deserves your time, energy, and nurturance. Coming in with the Queen of Clubs, Queen of Clubs, Queen of Cups. Well, that's interesting because we did have the Queen of Wands come out. And the clubs is just the wands energy with more oomph. So maybe that's coming through like that because it's saying, yes, it does really require us taking some kind of action and preserving the time to really nurture this. But this brings us justice. This brings us balance. And one moment here, Ted's barging in. Do you need to go potty? Do you need to go potty? Yeah? Okay, Ted, just a minute. I'm going to take this off for you. Okay, go ahead. We got a big storm coming in out here. So it's about to get interesting pretty soon. Yeah. Yeah, it's to nurture us out of this state, you know? We got to come in out of the cold in our own lives and get things warmed up a bit here. Warmed up a bit here. We're going to continue to feel depleted if we keep going about things the way we have been here. Something needs to shift. Something needs to give. This is crossing that Nine of Pentacles energy with the Ace of Cups in reverse. Yeah, understand what's really worth fighting for. All right? Stop focusing the energy on the drama and figure out how you can come into accord with the places inside where you currently feel divided, you know? It starts with you, but there is a way to find the way through here. Okay, one more round, and then I'm going to do a Coven deck. We'll cap this off. I'm going to see if I can get Ted out for a walk before the storm really comes in here. Cut the deck and got, look at this. It pays off. Looks like we find something that is built to last. We find the true treasure. And it opens the road with the journey of the Fool. Isn't that beautiful? So something seemingly so small actually is the way through to root so much more. 10844. And that adds up to 17. The star and 8. Strength to rise above the challenges of the past. For something built to last, I think it's worth it. Godspeed.